YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy Booda back in the building for another last Cloudia video. Today we're going to get to what we discussed in yesterday's live stream. You can see the title and a tier list in front of, or behind me, I guess. The ARK selector ranking. We have a ARK exchange ticket incoming, which is so hyped for the game for all levels of players, free to play, pay to play. It's just one of the most generous things that they have done up until this point for any update. If I scroll down, you can see we have 11 ARKs to look at, and I'm going to be listing off the order of ARKs that I would personally be picking if I were missing them, right? This is going to change per player, their opinion. This is totally opinion based, but I figured I would make a little tier list and rank each one of these from bottom to top, give you my explanations and reasoning as to why I would pick certain ARKs over others. Starting with the number 11 spot, this is going to be the ARK that I would pick last. We are looking through all of these, and Amaterasu. One of the more recent ARKs within this list, actually landing at the very bottom of this list. I'm going to go to Lake's Gold Mine just so that we can show the ARK as we talk about it. This ARK, while I don't have it, so funny enough, it's going to be the one that I'm picking up. I don't see myself using it too often, especially for any high difficulty quests or high level strategies. Now don't get me wrong, all URs have their place, right? These ARKs are well above many SSRs, SRs, and RRs. However, it's just that there is no one thing in this ARK that really makes it stand out as being top tier. It gives some nice damage for light attackers. It has this extra healing layer on top of it. Many people were excited to make a hybrid damage and healer out of their Shift Roland with this ARK. However, it's just not that exciting for me. It does have some damage mitigation, but it's virtually non-existent for what's required of it. Its ARK skill attack is okay, but it's super tailored to fight undead enemies, which is just extremely niche and not my cup of tea for most for what I would want out of a ARK. The teachable skills as well, I mean, it'll be nice to get things like Undead Geyser and Holy Armor for myself. I know there have been a couple instances where I wish I did have Holy Armor for that damage mitigation, but overall, there's just not much to get excited about for this ARK, which is why it lands at this number 11 spot right here. Moving on to number 10, second to last on my pick list, we're looking at Lily Matter. Now, this is an ARK that many people have their eye on, specifically for magic casters, and I would say because it does do very well on Maja. I use this ARK a lot on Maja. It comes with some really nice things we can talk about. The ARK ability, right, the trait, giving that 20% damage received from all light and dark attacks, that is a very powerful ability, and it's universal, right? That's just universal damage, no matter if you're attacking with magic, physical, ARK skills, specials. That is a nice fast damage received buff, but then it starts getting a lot more niche for light and dark magic. It does give universal magic damage, but the cap is specifically for light and dark. The ARK skill alone, right, you also got to keep into consideration these ARK skills are at ARK skill level 10, so not a very common level most people will experience. I believe at the lowest level, this is it's either a 3 or 5,000 damage cap. I think it's 5,000 maybe, but just not super duper impressive. It's nice when you want to min-max and show off your big damage caps on magic, but it's not necessary. It's more of a flex than it is something that's extremely useful, I would say. And the teachables being so tailored toward light and dark magic, of course having light mega and dark mega boost teachable are really good for those respectable casters. But everything else is very easily accessible on other easier to acquire ARKs. I didn't even talk about the ARK Ether reward for Amaterasu. God Welkin Ring, okay, it's good. It's a good slot in for, again, light and dark magic users. But again, you find that these super niche tailored ARKs just tend to fall at the bottom of these ARK selection lists. Being so tailored for light and dark magic, most of what's going on here, it just lands it at one of these lower rankings in my opinion. Number 9 coming in, I'm going to be putting Solaris, right? Another niche ARK, I would say. This is going to be tailored to your thunder attackers. However, it also has some other really nice aspects to it that should be mentioned, right? It's why it doesn't land at the very bottom of the list. For one, you get a very nice damage received mitigation buff for 20 seconds that can help in the beginnings of certain battles where bosses are nuking really heavy, or it's really good in arena, right? That's where a lot of nuking is done in the very beginning of that fight, so having half of that damage for all types of damage, really good. Then it starts getting into the nicheness for your thunder attackers, but just solid damage and a damage cap that we expect on UR ARKs. The ARK skill, again, just kind of a big thunder damage hitter. This is at max ARK level 10. This also does give another physical damage received mitigation buff for the party, so pretty useful, I would say, for certain fights that are tricky with the physical damage. The learnable skills, though, have some great synergy. Just having machine equip and machine high boost, along with one of the thunder shields and thunder attack raise, 2 teachable, extremely good. We know that machine equipped along with machine high boost is going to be very ideal when you're wanting to run Trishula. So just having this available on having both of these available on this ARK to slap on a unit, I know gives me some QOL when I'm teaching unit skills, which is awesome. Bolt Cannon Blades is also a weapon that can be God Forged into a better version of itself. Nothing too crazy. I'm not crazy for Bolt Cannon Blades and the God Forge upgrade to it, but it's still a nice thunder machine weapon to have when you want it. I could honestly see if you wanted to swap Solaris and Lily Matter, I wouldn't be mad at you. Just because this is a little more, both of them are niche. This is more thunder, but I value the teachables a little more on Solaris and what it offers, which is why I think I have it just above Lily Matter here. Number 8 might confuse a lot of people based on what I've seen in the community, but your boy is putting Kagutsuchi at number 8. Yes, more towards the bottom, doesn't even make the top half of this list. Again, Kagutsuchi, remember, they're all good ARKs. These are not bad ARKs by any means. However, Kagutsuchi being pretty tailored for fire attackers, while it does have some perks in the ARK ability within the ARK skill that are more universal than just for fire attackers, it's not something I tend to use all too often. I think it's a bit overhyped, if I had to give you my opinion on it, but it's still good nonetheless. You get crit rate for physical attacks and physical damage upon HP loss. You do have a permanent Brave buff, so units that are lacking that can get some use from this ARK there. Then it gets more into the niche fire attacks, only get that damage cap. Then here with the ARK skill, what's nice is that after a pretty powerful fire attack, you do get 30% universal physical damage for the party, and then your fire attackers are going to get an extra 30% damage increase. So fire attackers are eating with this ARK, and it does have its use for other attackers as well. The learnable skills, definitely something to talk about. It has some unique skills to the ARK. I think Light High Drive, this is the only place that's accessible. Fire Critical Raise, more of a luxury skill, not something I recommend too often, but it is teachable here. Nice that it comes with 2 circles to teach from it, right? So the learnable skills, I would say, shine on this ARK very heavily, similar to Solaris. And then, of course, the ARK Ether Reward Spirit Sword Kagutsuchi, just one of the best swords in the game, especially for fire attackers, when it is God Forged into the God Blade version of itself. So just given that flat crit rate, and then the extra 25% damage is what it can get up to at max for fire physical attacks. Really good AER, along with monstrous stats. So the AER, right, people love it for their fire attackers. I don't blame you. If you have a Roy, right, we have Adel incoming with this anniversary, this ARK is going to be highly desirable for characters like that. However, we're still within that niche situational category. Outside of fire attackers, this arc loses so much value that there are other arcs within this list that have more universal value to your account and that I would pick way faster than going for Kagutsuchi for one unit. Which leads to number 7, and my pick is the original Eldravana arc. This might get some people's panties in a bunch that I put Eldravana above Kagutsuchi, but for me, I like Dravana way more due to the fact that it is one of the best enabling arcs for special attackers, right? Giving that 120% special damage modifier. It does also give you this increase of physical damage over time, although 300 seconds is an insane amount of time to wait for the majority of fights in this game. When you look at its special capabilities, that special damage modifier, and then another 5,000 damage cap for all specials, it's just an easy slot in when specials are what you want to focus on for the fight you're going into. The arc skill itself also does some really funny cheese gimmicks with breaking. Tweaks has posted a lot of videos about that. It's how he handles a lot of the monster stages that you can get unique accessories for. And it's one of these arcs that just does 100 hits. I mean, like, who doesn't love 100 hits in the combo meter from the arc skill? It's just a fun one to use. Not extremely practical by any means. However, it's the fact that the arcs we've talked about previously are very niche within their category, and while Imperator Eldravana is also niche, it is still a general special damage useful arc. So for that alone, it gains more brownie points for me. The teachables are not as crazy. I'd say both Solaris and Kagutsuchi have preferable teachables in my opinion, but there are some okay things. Having quick trigger teachable, it can be useful. Light attack raise 2, of course, is nice to slap on any units that don't have it if you have the SC room for it. And then Zelbius Blade. There's some speculation that, well, from me, I don't know if anyone else in the community feels this way. I do think that the Godforge for this sword can be coming soon, and I would assume it's the equivalent to Kagutsuchi, but for light attackers. Now, we do have some other light weapons in the game, specifically light swords, that doesn't give this sword so much value if you think about it. However, the community wants the new Shift Roland sword, which would make sense if Zelbius is Godforged into that, and we're getting some Godforge equipment within this 3.5 anti update. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this is on the list of Godforge weapons, which would increase this arc's value even more so. That's why this arc lands at the number 7 spot, because of its more universal use in the special category compared to these other arcs we're talking about. Moving up the ranks to number 6. I'm going to be placing the Loug Zeus arc. So, this arc, while you might be saying, wait, what? I thought you didn't want niche arcs. This arc is for dark attackers. Well, not necessarily. While the damage cap is pretty specific to dark attacks, obviously, what this arc has usefulness in universally is the break damage mechanic. Now, it also has this damage stacking ability, which is awesome, and that is for skill and magic damage specifically up to 40%. However, it's this next part. All party members and enemies on the field, excluding unit and god types, will get 50% break damage received and 50% feint damage received. It's mainly for the break damage received that this arc jumps up so many points in my book. Breaking, if you're not taking advantage of it yet, that's fine because it's more of something you take advantage of in endgame. In fact, that's kind of all of these arcs, right? All of these UR arcs, their best uses are usually in endgame specific strategies. It's very rare that UR arcs are actually the best in slot arcs for your general purposes, I would say. So when you are taking advantage of breaking strategies, and you're not fighting god type enemies, this ARK is literally godly, right? I've used it, Tweaks and I have showcased it in many different podcasts. I've used it in so many different Godforge battles just to break bosses quickly. I'm not going to read all of Lake's notes here, but the 3000 damage cap to dark attackers is obviously very nice, and that is more niche than the breaking we're talking about. It doesn't take away from how potent this ARK is, whether you're using dark attackers or not. The ARK skill itself is a bit off-key with what I'm talking about here. It is a nice dark attack, but gives 30% magic damage and 30% for all dark damage. So similar to the Kagutsuchi effect, however, it's giving universal magic damage, and then on top of that, more dark damage. The learnable skills also not terrible, not great, but I do like Arcane Up 2 when you do want that extra MP. Shadow Circle being teachable. This is a very easily accessible skill, so maybe that's not the best one to use. But Dark Attack Raise 2, of course, being teachable, we'll take it. World Break Globus, though, extremely good AER, especially when you're getting that much damage percentage and all damage for dark attacks in an accessory slot. I use this all the time on my Loug Zeus, on my Joker, on my Sheeta, right? Just a really good slot and accessory for those powerful dark units. Going back to the tier list, we're moving to number 5, so crossing the halfway threshold. I have on my list ARK being Eldravana. Now, this 1 through 5 right here, these ARKs are extremely good, right? Especially for their more niche uses, which I would still say we're in. If we're looking at ARK being Eldravana, this is one of your goated ARKs for your single wield attackers because of the different traits and abilities that it has. When one weapon is equipped, you get 6,000 damage cap, which is just an incredible amount of damage to add on top of these extremely potent single wielders that we currently have in the game. Shift Roland, Shift Balin, we're getting Adel tomorrow. And it does have some really nice strength additions, as you can see, gives 10% and then up to 50% over time. Very similar to the original Eldravana, but just focused on the strength stat rather than damage, which is kind of a bummer. However, you also get +2 resistance to all basic status ailments for 40 seconds, which when status ailments are annoying, this trait is god tier because it just pushes you into a nil status, especially if you have a little bit of resistances already in the unit itself. So really good ARK ability. And then the ARK skill also has its niche use. Doesn't quite synchronize with the ability, I would say, the ARK skill here. However, when you also want to take advantage of special damage strategies, and if you have this up to ARK skill level 10, you get some big buffs, right? 50% special damage and 10,000 cap is nothing to scoff at, right? Super duper powerful. The damage that it does, 1,000,000 damage, is not impressive to me. It's mainly the ARK Evangelist buff that you get that can be extremely powerful when you take advantage of it. This combined with Imperator Eldravana, you're looking at some nasty special damage from our top special performers. The learnable skills also super duper top tier, right? Having Favored Sword and Light Mega Drive teachable is enormous for other units that don't have these skills innately and that want them for that extra damage cap from Favored Sword, extra damage cap and modifiers from Light Mega Drive. Special Shield 2 I've been using a ton with these new Maze of Tartarus bosses that hit very hard on their specials. Having this teachable is extremely useful. I've used it in almost every fight as well. So the Ether Reward, ARK being Edict Helm, is also very good. Has that very potent ability to be unaffected by STR and defense debuffs. Certain enemies in the game can get very tricky with what their debuffing capabilities are. So being able to ignore that completely can come into use. So very nice accessory slot. 50 MP, I should give that a shout out. And some nice resistances. So just an incredible ARK overall. But keep in mind again, still niche to the single wielders, special damage. So it doesn't quite have that universal value that I'm looking for when we're looking at these more top ranked selections that we can pick from. Moving on to number 4, you're going to be looking at Melee Mare. Now, this ARK is going to have some incredible use. Let's see if I can find it. Melee Mare, here we go. When status ailments are applicable, which I would say is definitely more often the time than every other niche situational ARK that we've talked about so far, you get some monstrous benefits from this ARK. Starting with the 4,000 damage cap against enemies that have status ailments inflicted, you get extra damage percentage for your hit combo counter, getting up to 40% at 100 hits. You have this when another party member dies, apply a 30% damage received to the debuff on a random enemy on the field. If you're fighting a boss and it kills one of your allies, even better. And the ARK skill is what's so crazy because of its synergy with the trait here. 100% chance to inflict blind curse and illness to all enemies if this is ARK skill level 10. That percentage chance does decrease if you don't have that leveled up. It also deals some very, very respectable damage, 41 hits, dark damage, and has a chance to insta-kill for whatever reason if that's applicable there. This ARK skill can hit very, very hard with the Terramel's, as Lake's note explains here. The status ailments are inflicted before the damage starts popping off, so it can take advantage of all that damage increase from Terramelth from the actual ARK ability itself. So just an incredible synergy between the ARK skill and the ability. And when you can inflict those status ailments, it's just such a monstrous return in damage for any unit that's using this ARK, right? The learnable skills also really nice, has Terramelth 3 teachable, giving extra damage, and cap for enemies that have status ailments, and that's for all damage, universal damage. Dog Eat Dog is just an extra damage skill, but since it's against non-boss enemies, it's not my favorite thing in the world, mainly for having Terramelth 3 teachable. The AER here is good, not the best, I would say. However, still very applicable and very potent. I mean, very nice skills for an accessory. 500 HP, 102 strength is really, really nice. And you get 15% damage against enemies that have status ailments as well. So this ARK just shines because every piece of it is synergized, right? The ability synchronizes with the skill, synchronizes with the learnables, and synchronizes with the AER. That all results in incredible damage output when you're taking advantage of status ailments, which, as we know, status ailments, when the bosses are not immune to them, are some of the most crippling things and the easiest strategies to take certain fights down. So Melee Mare definitely deserves one of the top spots and top considerations when we're looking at these ARKs available. But now moving into what I would call the big 3. If you pick any one of these ARKs over the other one, I wouldn't hate it. I still think there's an argument to be made why there's an order, right? I would still pick these in a very particular order, as we're going to see. But these ARKs are just incredibly good for universal reasons across the entirety of the game. So looking at number 3, getting the bronze medal is gonna be Theopolis. Okay, so Theopolis, let's go ahead, pull that ARK up. An incredible ARK that I think aged way better than people gave it credit for upon release. So looking at the ability, at the wave start, you give a defense and mind minus 50% debuff for 10 seconds. When you're talking quick burst strategies at the beginning of battle, which we talked about with this upcoming ARK that's being added to the game with Adel. This is one of the most broken abilities ever. Just literally having the defensive stats of all enemies by that amount allows you to deal so much damage in places where you might have damage severely negated. So incredible start to this ability. The next part of the trait is not the craziest thing here. It's mainly just this defense cutting that makes this ability shine way more. Even though you might think 10 seconds is not a lot of time, 10 seconds is plenty of time to get your proper burst damage out in endgame burst strategies. So this attribute resistance gimmick here, it's nice, but it's not like anything I want to talk about. The 100% unit soul drop rate, this is also something that stands out. However, it's not extremely potent because you don't typically want to be running your arcs like when you're farming units in hard and god stages. You don't want to be running your arcs at max level. You're going to burn through your soul tanks so quickly that the farming's not even going to be efficient. So this is useful for the try hard, like Viopolis. Many people know the strategy, but it's not worth really talking about in this video. The skill itself, however, at max level is where this arc takes the cake. The attack itself is pretty potent, deals 30 hits of the element that whatever enemy you're attacking is most weak to. After you use this skill, it gives minus 50 to all attribute resistances for 40 seconds. Just talk about god tier resistance cutting, which as we know is part of the reason why Trishula, the weapon, is regarded as one of the best weapons in the game. This arc it does minus 50, so it's a flat minus 50. If you have an enemy that has 30 resistance to the element you're getting, now with this arc you can deal weak point boost damage, which is just nutty, right? It enables so many units to just pierce through enemies that they would struggle to damage without this arc. And something that it doesn't really mention here, I don't think, it groups flinchable enemies together. So again, for burst damage, you jump into a battle, you have the defenses decreased to all hell, you pop this arc skill, lower all the resistances, and group everything together. It just sets up the battle to be the easiest wipe you've ever seen in your life, since everything is just grouped together, defense is lowered, ready for you to slaughter them, right? So going on to the learnable skills, not really the strongest point, except for that it does have Giga Weak, which is a very, very, very potent spell, since it casts that minus 20 to attribute resistances to all enemies. Very much a QOL compared to the weak skill. For your debuffers or support units, having that teachable here is nice. I think this is the only place you can get Giga Weak, aside from an LR arc maybe, but regardless, I digress. The AER is also something to talk about. The Dimension Wand and the Granz is super powerful for your magic dealers. I think it's regarded as the best staff in the game for your magic damage dealers. It can be Godforged as well, to the point where it gives 35% magic damage to all attributes, right? There is no element lock to this staff. The Godforged version of it is very, very, very powerful. Going to work on your Lagarboses, on your Shiftalizes, on your Majas, all of the above. So very, very good arc. And again, just the ability to burst damage, group enemies, lower their resistances, lower their defenses with this arc is what makes it stand at the top of the selection list here. Getting into number 2. Now, these two arcs, I honestly can say are interchangeable for me. I didn't have a Great War of Ruin for the longest. I started with Council of 10, got it to arc skill level 10, and felt the true benefits of this arc before I was ever able to use the Great War of Ruin. So I think I'm a little biased, and I'm not gonna let my bias get in the way here. In the number 2 spot, I would put Council of 10 for a couple of different reasons, but we should talk about why this arc is one of the godliest things in this entire game, especially when you have it at arc skill level 10. So to start off, you get just 2,000 universal damage cap, which is just gonna be nice. Doesn't matter who's wielding this, you're getting some form of damage cap, which is awesome. The second part with these percentage increases is not something worth talking about. However, the last part, when this arc skill is used, you get +1 stop cap for all skills. I mean, we just got through the DMC rerun. Rip to anyone who wasn't able to get the mobile office arc again, and you missed out on Purple Orb, but stock raising abilities in this game enable so much DPS when you're talking about end game that it's not even close, right? The amount of damage you can get from this skill, coupled with the Purple Orb, coupled with things like Winry's Apple Pie, like Honey Elixir, like any SCT recharging abilities that allow you to get a unit's stock up to max before you start spamming skills to milk all that damage out, the value cannot be undermined. And then when you're looking at the arc skill at level 10, you fully stock all skills and give +1 stock to all skills for other party members. This doesn't give an extra stock cap, keep that in mind, but at ARK skill level 10, it does give 1 stock to each skill for your other party members, along with recharging your unit's stocks up to max and giving them an extra stock of each skill on top of that. When you're looking at this ARK in multiplayer, whoever has an ARK skill level 10, Council of 10 in multiplayer, is going to be the carry for that final boss wave, especially if you're walking in there with Purple Orb and Pirate's Feast. You load into the match, you dump all your skills, you pop this ARK skill, and then have all of those skills again +1 for each S1, 2, and 3. It's just damage absurdity. One of the most fun ways to play the game, in my opinion, is to have your entire stock on that final boss wave and then recharge it with more to dump more damage. Stupid value here, right? When you have this, even at ARK skill level 9, all you're missing is the +1 stock to all party members. You still get the +1 stock cap and all of the stocks given to your unit. Without this ARK being at ARK skill level 9 and 10, I would say it's definitely not as convenient. It doesn't become bad by any means, especially if you have means to charge up SCT after you use the ARK skill. However, I would say it's the fact that you need this ARK to be at level 9 or 10 to truly bring out its power that I would place it in second place here. Looking at the learnable skills, it's nothing crazy. There's really nothing here that's worth talking about. Like Critical Raise being teachable is something, but not anything worth mentioning. And Imperial Flag of Honor is a nice staff. However, it's missing some key things, right? It doesn't have any MP. The damage boosts that you get from it for physical and magic attack are temporary, and the stats are nothing crazy. So it's not my favorite staff. It can definitely be used in like in an arena. It's very nice for the rest of the party, but it's mainly just the ability to charge stocks and then have extra stocks at that max ARK skill level that put this ARK above all the others. I'm telling you, many people, when you're reading this on paper, when this ARK released specifically, were not enamored with it. Because it's only available once per quest, it feels like a very temporary niche thing. However, it has aged so gracefully. It's one of the ARKs I use most often, and it's in a ton of my unit showcases, and there's a reason for that, right? One of the best ARKs in the entire game when you have it leveled up, bar none. But that leads us to the final pick of this tier list, and we're looking at the Great War of Ruin. This was the second ARK, the second UR ARK released in the entire game, and it still sits at the top, I would say, of the entire UR ARK list. Here's the reason that this ARK is so good, right? Even at ARK skill level 1, that's where that difference is for me between this and Council of 10. Even at ARK skill level 1, you get insane benefits, right? The ability itself, when using a special, you increase the special gauge by 100% once per quest. You get 50% to your chest drop rates, which is fine. Physical attacks will deal effective damage to God-type enemies, and minus 20% received to God-type enemies. So the entirety of the trait is nothing to go crazy about. It's the first line of the ability plus the ARK skill that is just so broken for this game. The ARK skill increasing the entire party's special gauge to 100%. Of course, that's at ARK skill level 10, but even at ARK skill level 1, it increases the unit that you have this ARK equipped to. It increases that special gauge to 100%. You can use a special, and then you can use another special directly after that because of the first line in this ARK ability. So you essentially have two specials lined up at the start of battle back to back. Now, specials are a bit taboo in most scenarios. Not every unit special is like OP. However, because you can just enable any unit to use their special whenever you want with this ARK, it makes for some crazy strategies. I'm looking at Guardian Angel Lukiel, I'm looking at Alice, I'm looking at freaking units like Levi, I'm looking at probably Adel. His special is going to pump out a shit ton, especially if you can do it back to back like this. And even non-offensive specials like Spirit Maid Interia Sarah, right? Tinkili, units that give crazy enabling, crazy healing, crazy revives. Having that special accessible immediately whenever you want with this ARK, it has saved my it has saved my life too many times to count. And then every unit that's coming in the future that has a potential broken special ability is only enhanced by this ARK right here. Just that alone makes it such a crazy, nutty ARK to use in all types of the game, whether it's early game, mid game, end game. This ARK is useful all over the place on any unit that you want to take advantage of their special. And again, this is different than, I would say, the ARK being ARK skill and the OG Eldravana skill, because those are mainly focused on special damage, and you still have to wait for the special to charge up. Having access to specials just at the click of a button is what makes this ARK so crazy, right? The learnable skills are also wonderful. This is the only place that Combo Master is teachable, which couples very, very nicely with Combo Master 2, which is accessible on a free ARK. Having Fire Attack Raise 2 is going to be nice for those fire attackers that don't have it. Both Auto Aura, Auto Brave will take it. Not the craziest stuff, but Ring of Wisdom, the AE, are also a very nice accessory that gives an extra revive stack, which, as we know, revive stacks are a bit limited, so any source of them is going to be useful. It just can't be understated, can't be undermined how useful this ARK is universally, and it will be forever. There is no situation where this ARK won't be top tier godlike, because we only have more units to come out that have the potential with their specials to deal damage, to enable, to bring out whatever benefits you can get from that unit's special, right? This ARK just makes it accessible immediately. And that is going to be my list of UR ARKs to choose. This is the order in which I would choose them if I were missing any of these 11 ARKs. And funny enough, I am missing Amaterasu here at the very bottom. So guys, I need to get to editing this video. I hope you enjoyed this new format of ranking these selections based on a tier list. So let me know what you guys think in the comments of this structure. And of course, your thoughts. I know this list might trigger some people, but I think I explained myself pretty well. And of course, this is all my opinion. Now, before you leave, I did want to make an announcement that I definitely skipped over in yesterday's live stream. I was like, oh, I have a big announcement at the end of this live stream, and then I forgot to say it. I want to do a fundraising stream for Lake, right? Last Cloudia Gold Mine right here is a website that is too OP for our community, and it's all made by, or it's all spearheaded by one community member, Lake, who just needs a lot of love, right? I think we give him enough praise, but I want to go that extra mile and do a fundraising stream for him. Ideally, I would like to set up a little cash box where you guys can donate. I think I'm going to pitch in. And then at the very end, we're going to come here, buy Lake a drink here, very similar to how Tweaks opened up his Buy Me a Coffee website, and give back to this man who literally day to day gives back to us just by producing this resource and continuing to work on it. Stay tuned for that. I'm thinking maybe during the 3.5 anniversary launch, which would be this coming Thursday, I would like to do that live stream and that fundraiser for Lake. So looking forward to showing Lake that support. Be on the lookout. Save a little extra $5 from your paycheck, if you will, just to show support for a community member that deserves it and more. Keep him motivated to keep working on the website, all that good stuff. But back to the conclusion of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. If you're new to the channel, don't let the algorithm tell you when to watch my videos. Thank you to all my Buddha fam members for hitting that join button below. I love you. We're going to keep growing. 1,000 recurring Buddha fam members is the goal. And with all that being said, y'all know what we say. Work hard, play harder. See you in the next video.